Okay, since I don't make a penny off of any camera you do or don't buy, let's be brutally honest, okay? Now, I shot medium format for a long time, film medium format. I'm very familiar with its limitations. Here's a question for you that no one's been asking. When is 1/30th of a second shutter speed not 1/30th of a second shutter speed? That is when your picture window is like this versus like this. Obviously your sensor is a picture window. It's like, well, you know, you still have 1/30th of a second exposure. I don't see why it's a bigger issue on that bigger sensor. Well, here's the devil's in the details, because while the exposure is still 1/30th of a second, we're talking about 1/30th of a second for certain sections of the sensor. As the either rear curtain or second curtain follows the first, or an electronic front curtain shutter, meaning that there's a true physical rear curtain or second shutter that follows the scanning of the sensor, there is, see, this is where nobody connects the dots. It's like, well, 30th of a second to 30th of a second, and my answer to that is no, it is not. Because that big ass sensor, while it is getting 1/30th of a second exposure, it is being done in steps due to either two shutter curtains, or it is being done from an electronic front curtain or first curtain and a actual true physical second curtain. So a 30th of a second on a big ass sensor like this is not the same as a 30th of a second on a crop sensor. And this is where someone's going to leave a comment. It's like, yeah, it is, because a 30th is a 30th. And my answer is, again, no. Think about it. Use your brain. A 30th is not a 30th. This is a case where an apple is not an apple. It's like, well, they're both apples. It's like, yeah, but they're different. Okay? So let's get to the practicality. That's one thing. That means that if you got the shaky McShates, or you're not really good at hand holding, this camera will spank you. It will slightly. Here's one reason why you should call this a professional camera, because it will test the limits of your capabilities of holding that camera steady. This is a tripod camera. That's not to say that you can't take this out in bright sunlight, stick it in electronic curtain, electronic shutter, and you have eliminate out shutter shake. Obviously that is not an issue even for a noob photographer, but when you are an electronic front curtain, or you're doing a flash shot and you're at 1/120th of a second and you have like 50% ambient and 50% flash illumination, this camera will spank you if you don't have the karate, the ninja of obeying the fact that that is a big ass picture window inside that camera that is being exposed. Secondly, this camera is in no way, shape, or form meant for speed. Any thought you have of, well, how fast is it? If you're thinking about buying this camera, or this camera's on the way, you need to flush that out of your head like a rancid, floating Snickers log in your toy. Flush it out of your brain. This camera and the word speed do not go together. This is high purposeful photography. That's not to say that you can't set a focus trap. There's like some video, a guy's shooting a skier, like jump. That's a focus trap. In other words, he stuck it in manual focus. He set his focus, and then when the guy came by, he clicked the shutter. That's a focus trap. That doesn't mean the camera is fast. You can do that with a freaking old manual focus film camera too. That's called skills. This camera does require you to have some skills. Also, still, if you're familiar with the Fujifilm menu layout, this is 95% the same. There are a lot of customizable buttons. Even the top sub-command menu is totally customizable, which is awesome. I absolutely love that. Secondly, if you're not getting the tilt-shift adapter, reconsider that. You're going, but it's $560, and the answer to that is that yes, it in fact is $569. I forgot I was actually unlocking it the wrong way here. I'm usually looking at it from the top down. I was unlocking the viewfinder from the wrong direction. Really, this is a must. The actual tilt-shift adapter gives you 45 degrees left or right, and full articulation. Completely vertical. I have absolutely no use for that whatsoever. I do use it like this, like I'm using a twin lens reflex camera. I absolutely love this. And also, if I brace my body in a Weaver stance, which is a shooting stance, I'm actually able to position this camera up against my body and actually get really nice steady shots. So there are some little tips and tricks on the use of the GFX. So eliminate out the word speed from your bind. Definitely this camera will poke you in the ribs like a snotty little kid on high on caffeine. When it comes to shutter shake, this camera is a bit unforgiving, and it will frustrate you if you don't have the skills in the Ninja to properly hold this camera. So that's consideration number 2 for the GFX. The wonderful consideration is that this camera, due to the fact that it is a huge-ass sensor, combined with the fact that it is a bare sensor and not an X-trans sensor, using an existing sensor, this camera is absolutely, bar none, as I told you in prior videos, the best for using adapted lenses over any other Fuji camera. Not my opinion, hardcore fact. So that's a positive. But if you're not familiar with medium format and you're getting this camera thinking, oh, you know, the sensor is really huge, you know, this... It's that. As I mentioned on my review of this camera, this camera made me cry. The images on it made me cry. And I mean that literally. Number 3. This is not a high ISO performer. This camera, as its very premise is, medium format, which is for hardcore product, corporate, high-end fashion, high-end portraiture, extremely limited wedding use, like for staged portraiture and wedding, but not for wedding use itself because it's just too slow for that. This is slow, methodical, purposeful photography. This camera is not an ISO performer. If you can absolutely avoid it at any at all costs, the notion of shooting this above ISO 1600 is undesirable, is the word I'm going to use. Let's repeat that again, undesirable. This camera, like every other damn medium format camera, even since the days of film, demands saturation of the sensor. Well, in the case of film, saturation of the film. So, forget about speed. This camera will spank you if you're not good at understanding that it's, you know, a 30th of a second is not a 30th of a second. People don't talk about that at all, but I'm talking about it now because I know what the hell I'm talking about. It just makes sense. It's like, well, 30th of a second is a 30th of a second, or 60th is a 60th. You know, it doesn't matter which camera. No, it matters. It matters. It matters a lot. You also have a wider playing field of an axis of exposure whereby which any shake that you have, you know, this compared to this, you know. You see out here what happens out here? Suppose I have a little sensor here versus this big sensor. You know, this amount of shake right here doesn't register that much on this sensor, but on the huge sensor out here, this is magnified exponentially so in a multiplicative. So we have a shake issue here at, like I say, a rate of 1, but out here be like at a rate of 5 or 6, even though it's the exact same amount of shake. You feel me now? Bigger sensor. It's like, well, it's a 30th of a second. They're both being exposed for a 30th of a second. Yeah, but this is a shake issue of a factor of 1, and this is a shake issue of a factor of 4 to 5 or 5 plus. You see? That's just undeniable. So as long as you understand that about this camera, you will have no surprises. High ISO? No. This camera will spank you on shutter shake. And what's the other issue? High ISO, shutter shake, and what else did I say? The second one is embedded in there somewhere. And absolutely do get the tilt shift adapter. Really is a necessity. It just is. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, you can drop me a book or two. You can tell me to jump off a cliff. You see, I have to buy all this stuff myself because nobody's sending this stuff to me. Nobody's sponsoring me. No. No, girlfriend. No, they're not. Nobody is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later. Adios, do svidaniya, hasta luego. Aloha, пока, увидимся, and some other unknown language that I Swahili. I don't know what the word for adios in Swahili is, right? Yeah. GFX. Thanks. Bye. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-dum.